Trade deadline looming in a little over a week. The real question is, what will the Phoenix Suns do to reshape this roster? And with a new surprising update, we could see a big move possibly happening with Jusuf Nurkic. He's been a player who has received multiple DNPs and went out with an illness and still has yet to play with this team since they've arrived back in Phoenix. He hasn't fit in with Mike Budenholzer. We're going to be diving in and exploring the possibility and looking at a potential trade that I personally really like. We getting into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and you guys are absolutely fantastic. Been showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super, super fantastic. We really do appreciate it. And make sure to come into the stream tomorrow as we'll be live once again every week at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern to break down everything Phoenix Suns with you guys. The last couple weeks have been absolutely fantastic, and we really do appreciate these streams. So you guys smiling in and having a good time with us is always appreciated as well. But without further ado, let's get into the video at hand. Make sure to grab that snack as always. And like I said in the introduction, we got a new trade update with the Phoenix Suns here as they potentially could be looking to move off a center in Jusuf Nurkic, which we've obviously broken down and discussed. But with some new updates, a trade could be on the horizon. As we saw from Michael Scotto yesterday, some reports on Bradley Beal's future, a Jimmy Butler trade, a Jusuf Nurkic trade update, amongst many others. But the core thing I want to look at in here is obviously the Jusuf Nurkic stuff, because the Jimmy Butler stuff we've already kind of broken down with Bradley Beal at this point, and at this rate, it's looking very slim. But looking at what Michael A. Scotto had to present us, we dive in on a breakdown of Jusuf Nurkic, as he lets us know that the Suns are also exploring pairing one of the newly acquired first-round picks that they just got from their 2031 first for those three Utah Jazz firsts to pair up with Jusuf Nurkic to acquire a starting caliber or high level rotational player on the trade market. League sources told Hoops Hype. And if we dive into some more, Nurkic is obviously owed $18.3 million and has averaged only 8.6 points and 9.2 rebounds in 23 minutes this season. Despite acquiring center Nick Richards, Phoenix doesn't view Nurkic as a salary dump, since he will have more value on the trade market this summer when he becomes an expiring contract worth $19 million for the 25 and 26 season. And he goes on to say, whether the Suns can acquire Butler, trade Bradley Beal, or trade Jusuf Nurkic, it remains to be seen. But what's certain is the organization remains all in on trying to make this team as competitive as possible with an eye towards the playoffs. And as Suns fans going on this 3-game win streak, this is what we want to hear. This is what we want to see. And with the new addition, like Michael A. Scotto mentioned, in Nick Richards, we have seen this team been able to dominate with the acquire of him. So I think that this Phoenix Suns team should be pushing for some aggressive moves and should still be looking on the market, regardless if they get off Bradley Beal's contract, right? Regardless if they can get Jimmy Butler on this team. This team still needs moves around the edges that still could be made moved, and Jusuf Nurkic is probably the biggest one that they have to use. Now, like Michael A. Scotto said, he does have some value next season, as he will be around that $19 million range and is an expiring deal, so more teams will be more likely to take on the contract of Nurkic comparative to this season. But with the Suns acquiring those 3 first-round picks, they know that they want to be aggressive on the trade market, and they were planning on using those 3 first-round picks regardless, not all in a Jimmy Butler deal with Bradley Beal. It was expected that they were only had to use 2 of those first-round picks, being able to save one of those first-round picks to eventually offload Jusuf Nurkic as well. And that's been kind of the talk of what the Suns' plans could ultimately be. But with they are unable to still do a deal with Butler, I still assume them to use that focus with using some of these picks to move off Jusuf Nurkic, using at least one of those first, if not 2, to get off this contract to even bring even some more star-status talent around this roster, because this Suns team, obviously Ryan Dunn is out, but with him injected into the starting lineup and with Nick Richards, can be a very impactful defensive team if they still have some better pieces around the edges. And what we've seen with this Suns team with Nick Richards is sometimes he gets in foul trouble. We've had to use Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee is reliable. He's a guy who can be plug and play in some instances, but I'd rather have the Suns have a more impact player and a high impact player piece at that backup center or starting center, regardless where you want to run Nick Richards, and depending on how invested you want to get a trade done to move off Jusuf Nurkic. to really bolster this front court when they have to go up against teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have big men and Naz Reid, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert, going up against the Denver Nuggets when they have guys like Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon, going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, and etc., etc., etc. We saw with Ivica Zubac, he was dominant versus this Suns team as well, and I do still think they need some extra beef in that front court there. So let me know what you guys ultimately think. I think the Suns should still be looking to move off Jusuf Nurkic, and I think he eventually will get moved off. I think that there will be teams that will make moves around the NBA, around the deadline, that will have some freed money up, and one of them will take on a contract in Jusuf Nurkic for a player in return. I do expect the Suns' major focus to be able to get off of Bradley Beal's contract, but if unable to, they will gladly still move off of Jusuf Nurkic and save some of those picks to either move off Bradley Beal in the offseason or to use to potentially draft or to make other moves down the line. But like I said, I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Before we get away, we are going to dive into who would you like. And personally, we're going to be looking at a trade that I really like as well. And this trade I saw over on Twitter, which was absolutely fantastic. And I think that many Suns fans, including you guys, are going to like this one as well. So we want to dive in and look at that. This comes from Brandon Duenas on Twitter, or normally known as Zona Arizona Sports. But he was looking at some Suns roster moves that they can make, came up with a team that he would really like, and came up with this trade. Larry Nance Jr. for the Phoenix Suns here for Jusuf Nurkic to the Atlanta Hawks and a second round pick. Now, ultimately, his kind of reasoning for the Suns doing a move like this is one of my favorite scenarios. Larry Nance Jr. is an expiring contract, but also a good basketball fit. He could be an impactful big, and given the Phoenix needed size at the power forward position, he could run some small ball center if needed as well. And this kind of goes along the line similar to what I brought up in recent videos, talking about adding a player like an Obi Toppin. I think a player in Larry Nance is in that same category where he can play maybe even better and be a better fit for this Suns team as a small ball five running, because we've seen Kevin Durant do that, and having Larry Nance doing that with a smaller team might be effective with this Suns three-point shooting team that we have seen this year. Also, Larry Nance Jr. can also stretch the floor, he can space the floor, and can be very, very effective. The one thing I do want to say when looking at this trade from Brandon, which I do agree is a fantastic one, check him out on Twitter or X at AZ Sports Zone, and check out his articles at Brightside because he does a fantastic job there as well. I think the Suns would have to add a first round pick, and I do think they would not be able to use that 2025 second. I do believe that the Hawks would want a little bit more than that for Jusuf Nurkic, and if the Hawks are able to move off of a contract in Clint Capella, bringing in a guy like Jusuf Nurkic is basically no problem if they want to move off an expiring in Larry Nance, and it also gives them the flexibility to move off Jusuf Nurkic next season, where he would be an expiring contract, to giving up, if he has a bounce back season with the Hawks, to then get some value back. But I do believe the Hawks would want one of those first round picks. And Brandon did say in his tweets that he obviously thinks that that could be the possibility as well. So I'm not going to say that he didn't say that, but I think that's kind of where it would have to be with the Suns here. Would have to be one of those first round picks. But do you guys think the Atlanta Hawks would do that? Do you guys like a player in Larry Nance Jr.? Let me know your thoughts down below, because like I said, I think Brandon hit this one out of the park with this type of trade. And honestly, when I saw his mock kind of list on Twitter of the 9 rotation that he would want to see the Suns have going into the playoffs, I saw Larry Nance Jr. and I was like, I wonder how he got that. And then I checked his Twitter again and I saw that mock trade and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm messing with this. This is chef's kiss. This is cooking with some fire. But shout out to Brandon for a good trade. Let me know your thoughts on the trade, like I said, and let me know ultimately what you guys think about Jusuf Nurkic as well down below in the comment section. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super, super appreciative, and we really do appreciate Curtis and I. So thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everyone.